Shalom and good evening, everyone. I'm Amir Tsarfati, and I'm live from Connect here in Galilee, next to the Jezreel Valley, where we hear non-stop takeoffs and landings of F-16s as Israel's battle, mostly in the north, is intensifying. I'm going to start with breaking news in a few seconds, but not before we will commit this into the hands of the Lord. Father, we thank you so much for being not only the creator of this universe, but also being in control and making sure that everything that happens for a reason and for a season. We thank you. We thank you so much that we can trust in you, that everything that you have foretold through your prophets is coming to pass. We thank you and we bless you. We ask that you will preside over the technical aspect of this broadcast, that you will bless and comfort and encourage and educate all the hundreds of thousands of people that are going to watch this update. Again, we thank you, and we ask this in the name of Yeshua. Amen. So again, shalom everyone. I'm Amir Tsarfati. We are live from Connect here in Galilee, in Israel, northern Israel, next to the Jezreel Valley, next to the northernmost airbase in Israel. And breaking news before we start the rest of the update is that the defense minister of Israel a few hours ago literally announced to the soldiers in the northern border of Israel with Lebanon that within just a few days, they will receive the command, just as the soldiers 11 months ago received the command to enter into Gaza. They will receive the command to roll into Lebanon. In fact, the Arab channels showed this picture all over the internet, quoting what he said: the center of gravity is moving north. We are nearing the completion of the tasks in Gaza. And so basically, everybody understands that it's time to move to the big game with the big league, major league terrorist organization, Hezbollah. And this is exactly why we are methodically working on eliminating all of their major commands echelon. And today, 40 kilometers deep into Lebanon in the Bekaa Valley, we eliminated one more commander, this time of their special forces, the Radwan forces. And that's the guy. I mean, every day we are eliminating operatives, but most so commanders, in order to leave the organization without that important level of people. And we're not only doing that, we're attacking launchers, we're attacking storage places for rockets, and as you will hear throughout this update, we even attack places that belong to Hezbollah or operated by Hezbollah, not in Lebanon. In this case, in Syria. We'll talk about it in a few seconds. So basically, Israel is getting ready. And how do you know that we're getting ready? The commander of the Central Command of American Military, the CENTCOM, General Kurilla, came to visit Israel yesterday. He met with Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, our Chief of Staff. He met with all of our generals. And the reason why the U.S. military is so involved is because we want to make sure that while we are doing what we're about to do obviously in Lebanon, we are also going to have enough intelligence and enough protection from any potential threat that might come from Iran, Iraq, or even Syria. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's heating up. It is definitely a matter of days, and we are talking about the next and the most important major front that Israel has to deal with in order to bring this war to an end. So this is it. These are the breaking news. And the different subjects that we have to deal with today in our Mideast updates are right there below on the screen, as you can clearly see right now. You will see the first one is there is a new front. After all the fronts that we have with Gaza and West Bank, North, East, we have a new front, and we'll talk about that in a few seconds. Also, we'll talk about the stark difference between countries that we have peace with for many years and countries that we just signed peace 4 years ago with. We'll definitely talk about the unusual attack of the IDF a couple nights ago in Syria. We'll talk about the situation in Gaza. We have eliminated today the commanders that were in charge of the murder and the execution of the 6 hostages a week ago. We scored that thing, and they're done. And we will also talk to you, ladies and gentlemen, about the protests in Israel after we found the hostages and what's going on in this country. A lot of people are fed by the Medianites, I call them, the media that is trying to obviously attack the government and show a completely different picture. And we'll even give you some interesting information that was quoted by other international sources that will tell you that literally there is no one to talk to and there's nothing to talk about when it comes to Hamas. We will also talk to you about the anticipation to the U.S. elections. Of course, we are hours before the debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and I will give you my final words that you may want to hear about what I see the end of the war is going to look like and what I predict based on the Word of God is going to happen here in the Middle East. So let's start with the first one. There's a new front, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, a few weeks ago, on one of our Mideast updates, we showed you the map that basically described the Iranian efforts to destabilize the area through the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. We showed you, as you can see right now on the map, you can clearly see the route that goes from Iran all the way, take a look at this, from Iran into Iraq, from there into Syria. And I'm talking about weapons and ammunition, all the way to the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. And from there it splits. Some of the weapons stays in Jordan to destabilize that area and arm them, and some is smuggled into the West Bank to arm the Palestinians. So that is exactly what we are witnessing right now. A couple days ago, there was a horrific terror attack in the Allenby border crossing between Israel, between the side of Israel and in Jericho, near Jericho, and the Jordanian side. In my military service, I used to command that part of the West Bank on the civilian side, which means I was part of the people that took care of the cargo depot and all the transition of population from Jordan into the West Bank, into Judea and Samaria and on. So I know this place very, very well. And during my time in 1993-94, Israel transitioned the Allenby crossing from being under military control and military and operated by the military to the Israeli Airports Authority because it became a civilian place. That's why it started hiring civilians. And of course, what happened is that one of the truck drivers that are bringing goods from Jordan into the West Bank, they have to be inspected in the Allenby Bridge by civilians in the cargo depot. He pulled a gun that he smuggled and he shot and executed 3 of the civilians. That's the driver, by the way, after he was shot by the Israeli military once we captured him. But that was too late. He already killed 3 Israeli civilians that were there. And by the way, make no mistake, most of the trucks that are crossing the Allenby Bridge in the last 10 months are basically humanitarian aid to the Palestinians. So not only that they are killing us every day elsewhere, they are even killing the people that are in charge of the humanitarian aid that's supposed to help them. Unbelievable. And so we're talking about a killing that is now opening a new front. I mean, we thought so far that our front on the east is the West Bank. And further beyond it, we're talking about Iraq, we're talking about Iran. But the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan is now officially added, and now Jordanians are part of the equation. And now we have to worry about that. Now, that's not the only thing we worry about. There are arms smugglings from Jordan. We actually thwarted a couple days ago. 72 pistols were found by the Israeli police, and we thwarted that smuggling attempt. In fact, if you follow me on Telegram, even today we have more weapons that they try to smuggle, and we thwarted that as well. Almost every day, Iran, look at this, Iran is trying to arm to their teeth the terrorist organizations in Judea and Samaria. But of course, some of it goes to civilians and terrorists within Jordan with the hope that they'll be able somehow to infiltrate into Israel and use it against Israeli civilians and Israeli military forces. The attempt of Iran to destabilize things from the east is the reason why the Israeli Minister of Defense, Israel Katz, tweeted the following thing yesterday following that event. He says the Iranian terror octopus is working to establish an eastern terror front against Israel and moderate states in the region. That's the octopus that we need to put an end to. And he showed Khamenei. And what he said the West Bank will surely be armed just like Gaza. They understand that Hamas is being obliterated, being destroyed in Gaza, and they want now the West Bank to burn. And in order to do that, they supply them with weapons and ammunition. And this is exactly what we deal with. Israel, over the last few days, also thwarted several terror attacks by stopping terrorists on their way to do those things as well. So another front, but that's in addition to the regular fronts, such as the one from the north. And as you can see yesterday, a Hezbollah drone flew and hit a residential building in the coastal city of Nahariya, not too far from the Lebanese border. So we're definitely talking about active fronts in the north, active front in Gaza, active front in the West Bank. We're hitting in Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. But of course, there is a new one, as you can see, and that is, of course, now Jordan. Now, it's interesting because Jordan has peace with Israel. You would expect the Jordanians to at least not be happy when Israelis are butchered. Take a look at how the Jordanians responded when they heard of the murder of the 3 Israeli civilians in the Allenby Bridge. They literally started distributing sweets and baklavas and kanafe and other things to the bypassers, and they couldn't stop. They can't control it. And even at night, fireworks, chanting death to the Jews, and waving with the Palestinian flags. That's what we get from a country we have peace with for the last 30 years. What about Egypt, with whom we have peace for over 45 years? They are allowing weapons to cross all the way into Israel from the Philadelphia corridor, from the border. And so the Egyptians are not doing much to stop arms coming all the way into terrorist organizations as well. And by the way, if you go to Jordanian schools and if you go to Egyptian schools, they don't really teach to love Israel or respect the Jewish people or to at least acknowledge the right of Israel to exist. No, not at all. On the other hand, 4 years ago, President Trump, the 45th president at that time, secured a peace deal that included a country called the United Arab Emirates. This is a picture of Dubai, but the United Arab Emirates is comprised of 7 different emirates. Of course, Abu Dhabi and then Dubai are the 2 biggest ones, and the 2/3 of the populations of the entire country are in those 2. But I want you to know that in that country, anti-Semitism is illegal. Their curriculum will not include any hate speech against Jews or Israel. They recognize Israel's right to exist, and they are very hospitable. In fact, as an Israeli, I can say I've been to Dubai quite a few times since the peace was signed. I feel safer in Dubai, which is an Arab Muslim country, safer there than I feel in some European countries and even in some parts of the United States of America. That how much there is a difference between a country that is not out there full of hatred and anti-Semitism and others that may have long peace with us, but they hate our guts. It's quite interesting. And this is exactly why Prime Minister Netanyahu is predicting that in any arrangement after Hamas is finished, after Hamas is gone, if there's a need for a civil administration within Gaza or somehow an international military force to enforce order in Gaza, Prime Minister Netanyahu is envisioning the Emiratis to take a very major role in this particular task because we trust them. And they are not infected. And of course, we always trust and verify, but they are not, of course, infected by this amazing hatred. Now, that's not the only country that Israel has a long peace with and it hates our guts. Take a look at Egypt, at Turkey, with whom we have relations for many, many years. Erdogan took power and his rhetorics against Israel are intensifying almost every day. This is what he said lately. In fact, yesterday. Basically, Erdogan says the only step that will stop Israel is the alliance of Islamic countries. Can you imagine? Alliance of Islamic countries. Now, I mean, every time I read such things and I see Erdogan, the first thing that comes to my mind is, of course, Bible prophecy. Because apart from Russia, it's going to be an alliance of Islamic countries that are going to come against Israel in that war. So, stark difference between countries with whom we have peace with for many, many years, and yet there's so much hatred there, and the United Arab Emirates, which is a gem in the Arab Muslim world, and that is quite a difference. Last night, a couple nights ago, I couldn't sleep almost throughout the whole night, and the reason is here, the airbase next to my house was the launching pad for a very unusual strike in the heart of Syria, not Lebanon, not Gaza, Syria. In preparation for a possible attack in Lebanon, or for sure attack in Lebanon and Hezbollah, Israel is basically taking all the abilities of the pro-Hezbollah or pro-Iranian militias. We're basically eliminating them. In one of the major places that we attacked during that night, and we're talking about 5 different waves of strikes. I mean, it was all night long. It was phenomenal. We attacked the research center in Masyaf next to the city of Hama in Syria. And what happened there, I mean, that's not the first time we attacked there. We attacked there a few months ago. We attacked there several years ago as well. But this time it was way bigger, stronger, deeper, and more extensive. And apparently there were 3 different objectives for this strike. First of all, we know that the Iranian Revolutionary Guards are based there, so we needed to eliminate them. Second, we know that there were drones that were manufactured there. And third, they were also working on what we call unconventional weapon, chemical weapon and other things in that facility. About 18 people were killed so far in that attack. Over 40 were injured in that unusual, strong, and decisive strike in Syria. again, the different fronts that we're talking about. There's Gaza, and there is the West Bank, and there is Lebanon, and there is Syria, and there is Iraq, there is Iran, there is Yemen, and now we also have Jordan. And if that's not enough, we have the international anti-Semites, both in campuses and also online. And so that's what we had in Syria. Last night, early this morning. I'm up since 4:40 a.m., so I just heard about it when it happened. A very unusual strike in the humanitarian zone. Now, if you remember, when I showed you the maps of Gaza, I basically told you that we encourage people from the southern part of the Strip and from the northern part to concentrate in what we call the humanitarian zone, where we supply humanitarian aid, and this is where civilians are staying. Well, obviously, terrorists take advantage of that, and 3 major terrorists in the rank of colonels, in the rank of brigade commanders, belong to Hamas. They were actually hiding right there under some of the tents. We got intelligence, precise intelligence. Israeli jets took off and strike that place, and we left a deep crater, and we eliminated them. And of course, the first thing that comes out when something like that happens is Hamas immediately start shouting, massacre, massacre, massacre. And they will immediately come up with fantastic numbers, such as 40 people got killed. But then when they have to supply names, they come up with 12. And it's interesting because take a look at the BBC and how they report things. The BBC says, Hamas says Israeli strikes kill 40 in Gaza safe zone. Now, if I was the BBC, I would be very careful. Just the other day, the Sunday Telegraph in Britain basically published that the BBC has breached rules 1,500 times over the Gaza war. And when I say breach rules, when you read the fine letters, it's not just breached rules, it's being biased against Israel and taking the side of Hamas. And whenever they cite the Ministry of Health, it's Hamas. Whenever they cite civilian authorities, it's Hamas. They're basically listening and hearing the words of a terrorist organization that just committed a genocidal massacre, and they're taking them over the words of military that can prove everything that happened there. So quite an interesting thing to hear from there. Now, as I said, just about an hour ago, Israel released information that over the last 24 hours, we also eliminated in Rafah the battalion commander and his 2 deputies that were in charge of the massacre, of the killing of the 6 hostages. So take a look at what's left from the list, the hit list of Hamas. Not too many are still alive. We still have about 15, 20 people out of the 60. And but guys, we're getting there. We're hitting them. They are on the run. I don't think Hamas functions anymore as a military force. They are executing guerrilla fighting right now. One here, one there. But that's it. We are killing the commanders. Most of their rockets are gone. And we are at the final stage of eliminating most of Hamas capabilities. And of course, we cannot afford not finishing the job with Hamas. That's a very important thing. An interesting thing that you need to see is that Israel currently is controlling 32% of the Gaza Strip. Take a look at the map. You all seen that map before. The Gaza Strip is divided to 5 different zones. The northern part, then the city of Gaza, then there's the central camps, and then we have Han Yunis and Rafah in the south. The Netzarim corridor that you see in the center is now twice wider. And then there's, of course, the Philadelphia corridor down south, where we are controlling the border with Egypt, and they can no longer smuggle weapons through it under the ground or above the ground. And of course, as you can see in the other map that we have, where you see the perimeter, security perimeter that is 1 kilometer deep, and you add the territory of Philadelphia and Netzarim corridor, which is now much thicker, as you can see, 32% of the territory of the Gaza Strip is completely controlled by the IDF. And what we do, we are raiding into areas where we know there's terrorist activity to eliminate them and destroy, and of course destroy the weapons as well as the terrorists themselves. So we're definitely on the winning side. We're crushing Hamas. It's no longer an existential threat there. Israel is getting ready, is gearing up to move everything, most of the military force, up to the north and to engage into the most important part of this war. We have to push Hezbollah north, and we have to take from them their enormous capability of 150,000 rockets and thousands of drones, some of them, if you follow me on Telegram, as you can clearly see on the very top here in the QR code, I just posted an hour ago drones that infiltrated into northern Israel. They have so many of them, and we need to destroy them. We need to destroy them. So we are systematically destroying their leadership as well as their capabilities, but there's so much work to do. And when we are going to roll our tanks in and our infantry into their territory, we're going to find so many tunnels, so many weapons. It's going to be bad, we know that, but we have to do it. Otherwise, we will never be able to get 82,000 Israelis back to their homes in northern Israel. We're going to come now to what's going on in Israel right now, which is a very tough thing for me to talk about, but I guess I have to. Ladies and gentlemen, following the finding of the 6 hostages that were executed by Hamas, and by the way, today, as I speak right now, the IDF just released the investigation on what happened there. Apparently, we didn't know they're there, and apparently we found we were drilling a shaft and into their tunnel a day after they were already executed. So now 2 terrorists somehow came out of their tunnel, and we killed them. Now we're checking if the DNA of those terrorists match the ones that we have on the bodies of the hostages. One thing is for sure, they had enough food and water there to keep them for a long time, and it was a dumpy, very small, very low tunnel. You couldn't even stand straight, and it was 20 meters under the ground, about 60 feet underground, and hard to breathe. And what we know is that it was a connecting tunnel between 2 big ones. So they were moving them between 2 major tunnels that had some steel doors in between them. Terrible way to keep them, and of course, terrible way to kill them. And at least we settled the score. We settled the account today, and the top commander of the unit that killed them in Rafah was eliminated together with his 2 deputies today. So that's a good thing. Now, following the finding of those hostages, a lot of Israelis took to the streets. They were very angry, frustrated. And the reason is the Israeli media, biased media, full of poison, full of lies and deception, kept pumping to the Israeli public that Hamas wants a deal, and it's Israel, it's the prime minister that doesn't want a deal. So you can imagine, when a civilian sees that 6 hostages were cold-bloodedly executed, and it's his prime minister that doesn't want a deal, obviously is getting angry. And people took to the streets, and they were very angry. But what the media failed to tell them, and what the international media did not fail to say, is that Hamas never even had a deal. He never wanted a deal. Hamas' strategy is to have no deal, but to pretend that they have a deal. 2 very brave media outlets decided to take classified documents that they found on computers of Hamas. One of them is the Jewish Chronicle, based in the UK, and they said that Sinwar's secret plan was actually to smuggle the hostages to Iran underneath the Philadelphia corridor into Sinai, from there to Iran. So basically, he never really wanted to release them, but he wanted to take them with him as what I call insurance policy. But the major outlet that actually spilled out the truth was the German, very, very popular newspaper, Bild. And let me show you the 6 different points that the German newspaper was able to extract from the documents that were found. So I'm going to read to you right now all the 6 points that were cited in the German newspaper Bild. Okay, so here it is. Let me see the 6 points so I can read it to you. And again, this is a very popular newspaper, and there you go. So first of all, as I said, this newspaper is very, very popular. They uncovered a document from Hamas leaders Yahya Sinwar detailing the manipulative ceasefire strategy. The first thing they found is that Sinwar says, blame Israel. Hamas plans to make Israel appear responsible for failed negotiations, suggesting that they rejected U.S.-backed deals. Now, I'll stop there for a second. Let's stop there for a second. Israel never said no. And the U.S. can attest that we never said no. But the media in Israel is telling the people that we are the reason for the problem, exactly as Sinwar wants. Let's move to point number 2 that was uncovered by that newspaper. Preserve military power. The aim is to keep their military strong to drain Israel politically and militarily. You understand that Hamas is not even thinking about giving up, about surrendering. They want to preserve their power, which is exactly what Israel cannot afford to have. Number 3, use hostages for pressure. Hostage videos will be used to put psychological pressure on Israeli families and the government. That's exactly what they do, and it works. Ladies and gentlemen, the media in Israel is pumping those videos and making the Israeli public angry and putting pressure on the government. Again, every one of these points are stupidly being embraced by the media and by some what I call useful idiots. Number 4, let's read. Prolong the negotiations. Hamas seeks to extend talks, avoiding a quick resolution despite the suffering of the Gazans. They don't care about the Gazans. In the documents that we found, we realized that not a single thing was written about taking care of Gazan civilians, stopping the war, making sure that the Gazans will have their needs met. No. In fact, prolong the suffering so it somehow will cause a way to attack Israel and a way for Israel to look bad in the media. And of course, another point is make sure that in any arrangement, Arab forces will be in Gaza and around as a buffer. They propose placing Arab forces such as Qatari and others that are on their side along Israel's borders to buy time and regroup for future conflicts. Make no mistake, Hamas says we'll do another October 7th and another October 7th. And if that's not enough, Hamas raised the price when they see that the pressure mounts and there's a lot of demonstrations and the media is pumping that Netanyahu is in charge. Now they raise the price. You see, every demonstration caused Hamas to raise the price. And Hamas is now demanding the release of 100 convicted terrorists to stall negotiations. They understand that there's a point where Israel cannot. So based on these tactics, we can see that Hamas is focused on manipulation and delaying reaching any agreement. And that's why I'm so sad. When I'm describing everything that is going on in Israel, there is so much deception and manipulation, mostly done by the criminal media that I call them the Medianites. And it's very, very sad. The military, the field commanders and the soldiers are super brave, and they want victory, and they understand there is no way we can ever allow Hamas to survive. But unfortunately, the top command of our military is completely out of sync with what's going on, is completely into complete surrendering, and wants a deal at any cost because they want an end to this war. And I want to tell you something. They used to have their way for many, many years. In Israel, although we are a democracy, one would think the prime minister and the government decide and the military obeys, because the military is not an elected official body. They need to obviously obey the commands of the elected body. Not in Israel. In Israel, the military is so strong and so powerful that many times it's the tail that wagged the dog and not the other way. And that's exactly what happened in the events that led to October 7th. They didn't think much of the government. They didn't want to collaborate with the government. They decided what to say and what not to say to the government. That's why they didn't even bother to wake up the prime minister before the attack, although they knew something is cooking. Ladies and gentlemen, Netanyahu said, enough is enough. I am not buying everything you say. Now, from now on, the government will rule, and we are not going to cave in to any demands, even if it comes from generals in the top command of our military. And that is exactly what we have now. So the media, the woke, progressive media, will continue to always blame the prime minister for something that they know is not true. And they know that Hamas never, ever offered a deal, never wanted a deal, and it's always been Hamas that said no to a U.S. brokered deal that was on the table, not Israel. And it has to be said. In a few hours, President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are going to have their first debate. And it's very, very interesting because there's a great anticipation in Israel to what's going on. Nate Silver, the actually very, very liberal pollster, just released these numbers early this morning. As you can clearly see, ever since the race began, Trump is now leading at the highest number, of course. Now, much of what's going to happen is based on how Kamala Harris is going to do in this debate. But I want to tell you something, folks. As far as Israel is concerned, I'm an Israeli. I don't vote for American in American elections. But as far as we're concerned, we know that the identity of the person in the Oval Office will determine if we can move on with finally striking Hezbollah and maybe even Iran and put an end to it. And not only that, if it's the right person in the Oval Office, we might even have another peace deal or normalization deal in the Middle East, and this time with the Saudis, that they can't wait to have it. They just need the right president to back up his words with actions, just like he did when it comes to the UAE and Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan. So we have to understand, it might be a debate for the Americans, and it might, be important to Americans, but here in Israel, many people will be up at 3 a.m. I mean, right now it's 8:45. We're close to 9 p.m. 6 hours from now, and many Israelis will have their TV open and they'll watch this debate, because for us, the identity of the person in the White House matters as well I mean, this war could have ended long ago if we had someone else sitting in the White House who is allowing us to do what we need to do and not tying our hands behind our back. And I will conclude with final words. I want you to know, folks, that there's a lot of pessimistic people. There's a lot of people who are angry or maybe frustrated. Some of the people in Israel are even a bit depressed. I mean, we're entering the 12th month of this war. It's almost a year. This is the second longest war we had in our history. It's only second to the War of Independence. We're not used to long wars. I mean, 6 days here, 2 months here, that's it. But it is long. We have a lot of casualties. A lot of people are wounded. We have trauma. A lot of people are traumatized from stuff that is going on here. But I want you to know, folks, biblically, I can tell you we're going to win. Biblically, Israel has to be strong, safe, secure, and prosperous for the next and the big war known as Gog, from the land of Magog, from Ezekiel 38. For that war, Israel has to be strong. At this point, maybe you hear the rhetorics of Iran and the rhetorics of Turkey, but neither one of these countries wants a war with Israel at this point, each for his own reasons. At this point, Russia is embarrassed by Ukrainian drones hitting Moscow. Moscow's airports were shut down last night because of drones attacks. The U.S. Secretary of State just said yesterday, a few hours ago, that he's imposing new sanctions on Iran because Iran is sending ballistic missiles to Russia. And he also said that Russia is somehow sharing nuclear knowledge with the Iranians. But the point is, Russia is leaning on weapons now that come from Iran and North Korea and China because Russia is suffering from lack thereof. So my point is, Russia is with too many problems. Turkey is with too many problems, and Iran is with too many problems. I don't think they can afford another war right now. And therefore, I can conclude that Hezbollah has to be destroyed or at least crippled. Hamas is being destroyed right now. Israel will be on the victorious side. There will be another peace treaty because at least according to that war, we know from the account in Ezekiel that Sheba and Dedan, which is Saudi Arabia, will protest those that the attack on Israel. They'll be on our side. And Israel, again, will be very safe, very secure, and very prosperous. The Israeli birth rate, unlike Europe, unlike America, unlike most parts of the world, is positive. The average family have 3 kids and more, whereas elsewhere it's all on a decline. That means that there's more power to work. The economy is continuing to grow. Our foreign currency reserves hit an all-time record of $271 trillion. That's staggering number. $billion, $271 billion of foreign currency that we have. These are surpluses. More than the UK, I mean, more than Turkey, more than many countries around the world. We are a wealthy country, strong country, but the secret is double. The secret is we have a great nation with the resolve because we are here for a reason. We didn't bring ourselves here, someone else did. And of course, the most important thing is that the God of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. He will not allow us to be destroyed. We're here for a reason. We're here for a season. And the Bible says that only when the sun, the moon, and the stars will no longer be there, then and only then the seed of Israel will no longer be as a nation before him. And so I want you to know that, that we are going through hardships. There are wars and there are rumors of wars. But as Jesus said, let your heart not be troubled. Don't be troubled. It has to happen. That's what the end times are going to look like. We are a generation that is experiencing things that other generations could not. We are not only seeing wars, but we're seeing the rebirth of Israel. We are seeing the fact that that fig tree comes back to life and flourishes. We're watching the alliance of Ezekiel's coalition. We're watching Jerusalem back in our hand. We are seeing stuff that for 2,000 years nobody could see. We are a generation that is watching events that it took hundreds, if not thousands of years for them to come to fruition. So it's unbelievable. So let's not be depressed. Let's not be confused. Let's not be angry and frustrated. Let's remember, He who promised is faithful. That's important to remember. Allow me to conclude today. And I want, please share this message. Share, press the share button. Not only that I ask you to follow me on Telegram for news all day long, but also this is an important message. And if you can just push or press on the share button, that will, I think, encourage many, many people. Let me conclude with the Aaronic blessing. All right. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונקה. יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance towards you and give you his shalom, his peace. B'Shem Yeshua. Amen. Thank you. God bless you. And shalom from Galilee, Israel.